Welcome to the GC BizCast, a collaboration of J. Whitney Bunting College of Business and Technology and the Department of Communication at Georgia College and State University. Here we discuss important topics with today's business leaders and educators. We produce weekly podcasts from our beautiful campus in Milledgeville, Georgia. We're excited that you've joined us. Our conversations should inform you and entertain you. The views expressed are the views of the individuals on the program and do not represent the views of Georgia College and State University. So, let's get started.
Welcome back to the GC BizCast. We're thrilled to get this underway. But before we do that, my name is Tate Hunter. I'm a sophomore management major here at Georgia College.
My name's Daniell. I'm a sophomore finance major at Georgia College.
And I'm Jake Wilson. I'm a business management major, and I'm a sophomore.
Mr. Lane, we're very excited to dive into your leadership qualities that you've attained over your 30 years of service. For our listeners tuning in, would you like to introduce yourself, maybe give a little bit of background?
Yeah, absolutely. First, thanks again for having me on this. I had mentioned to Ward when he asked, I said I have all the time in the world for you guys. So I appreciate you bringing me on to talk about leadership. As you might know from our conversation before, I had been in the CIA for about 30 years. I retired in 2019. I had the privilege of working in a number of places overseas, Europe, South Asia, and so on, working sort of across a variety of disciplines, counterterrorism, counterproliferation, and so on. And in that time, I think I developed a good sense of for what works and what doesn't work in leadership, and have attempted to apply that learning with sort of better outcomes later on in my career. But anyway, I was pleased when Ward mentioned that you guys were doing a segment on leadership and had asked me to share with you some of my experiences. So happy to do that.
Yes, sir. Well, we're very excited to dive into some questions about that. So
yep.
Sweet. One of the first questions I got here, Mr. Lane, is how would you describe your personal leadership style? Have you seen any of your techniques improve or evolve over the years as well?
Yeah. So when I read that question, your professor had sent that to me earlier today. I had to laugh because I had a interview in the agency probably a decade ago now, where I was leaving one office and then the counterterrorism center and looking for another senior position. And when I went to the interview, I was asked that very same question, and I gave possibly the worst answer that anyone in that situation has ever given. And it was partly because, and my answer now is not going to be that much better, but the reality is that framing it as a philosophy almost suggests that there are things that you always have to do in every situation. It's almost like there's a defined set of actions for every situation, and I don't necessarily believe that. And at the time of this interview, I was saying, like, there are a lot of things that we all each leadership path is independent. What you, Eli, will experience and learn is going to be different from what Tate experiences and learns, and how you prioritize that will be individual. But I think there are some common themes in terms of your attitudes and behaviors and values that, when expressed in a leadership situation, are sort of good and necessary for success. And I think the best formula I have for that is sort of looking at like these traditional Stoic values about wisdom and courage and temperance and justice. And if you apply those not only on your behavior, but on what you're trying to achieve as a unit or a group, I think good things happen in those situations. There are lots of books written about the 5 or 7 or 12 or 10 different principles for leadership or characteristics of leaders, and all perfectly valid. But I think to lock yourself into a philosophy on that, I think misses sort of the point of the journey.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, like, you would say you more like just kind of feel out every situation and then apply whatever philosophy you like, not like philosophy.
Again, proving that I didn't give a good answer the last time and I gave an equally bad answer the second time that I faced this question. If you are honest with yourself, and as I said, if you look at those, I'll just call them the Stoic virtues, which I think they are, that if you hold yourself accountable to those qualities and behave in a way that where you're acting courageously, acting with a sense of justice and purpose, that you have the wisdom to navigate these situations, you should be successful. But how you apply those will change situationally. So I joke with people that the hardest job I ever had was coaching T-ball. That was just super hard, and that, I don't know if that's a sort of a leadership role, but having to provide a vision for these young people on a field, teach them something, keep them safe. That's what you do there is totally different from what you're going to do as the head of the Boston Celtics basketball team, or what you're going to do as the head of a CIA station, or if you're the CEO of IBM. There are great levels of complexity that separate each of those things. But as I said, if you have those principles in mind and as you approach it, I think things work out. But how skilled you have to be at each of those levels changes. And so as a philosophy, I don't know. I'm not sure how to wrap that into a 200-page book.
Yeah. This past summer, I had the opportunity to work at a summer camp up in North Georgia, and I had all age groups from like 8-year-olds to like 18-year-olds. And I totally see what you're saying about like the different skills that you would use to motivate the 8-year-olds were totally different than the skills that you would use to motivate or lead like even the older age groups, even that little small section. So I totally understand what you're saying about the different skills that you would apply to certain situations that you might find yourself in.
Sweet. Right. Yeah, and I think, and going back to, I think that if you look at those those beliefs, attitudes, behaviors as these virtues, and you keep that as your compass waypoints, I think that's a good way to approach leadership. And as I said, everyone's going to have a different mix of those things, and feel free to Google it. But I'm sure that if you Google best leadership practices or leadership philosophies, you'd end up with like all the same things, but just in maybe one will have seven things, and another's going to have 10, maybe different priorities, but it's basically those same things, and repackaged in different ways.
Sweet. So that was a great answer, actually. Like, so understanding the complexity of each situation, but also having a bedrock of like certain values you hold yourself to, like your standard you hold yourself to. That was great.
You said it better than I did. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So with your position, I know you've definitely been in some high pressure situations. So how do you approach dealing with making those decisions in like high stake moments?
Yeah. So, I think you always have to, be prepared for both failure and success, and what might be required of you in those particular moments. And I think that's when good leaders sort of separate themselves from those who are not. You need to have a sense of confidence and self-control to be able to navigate whatever the situation is, and to make a sober and solid and hopefully just decision on something. There are times in the agency's career where there are deaths and other things, and how you handle that, both in terms of the being respectful and sensitive to the needs of family and friends, and to report that, how quickly you get collect the details and share that with headquarters in our instance is really important for that. But there, on an operational side, we're faced with things all the time where we the stakes are pretty high because on the DO side we deal with human sources so the collection of intelligence from our people in places of access that have access to secrets that we want to have to share with policymakers. So the obligation, the responsibility to do that well and get it right is literally a matter of life and death for somebody. And so it's really important that you are mindful of the steps it takes to do that and be have the best operational tradecraft, meaning like how you recruit and handle sources and so on. But there are times when you might be kind of you might have a sort of different view of how to handle something than headquarters. But as I said, you need to have the confidence and wisdom to be able to sort of push that through. I'll give you just one example from my career. We were handling a source who was going into a denied area, meaning a country where we don't necessarily have the access and freedom of movement that we might in a place like the UK in London or someplace. So high security threat, a very high counterintelligence environment, meaning there's a good chance that the local service would be understand our tradecraft, be looking for our sources and so on. So we're sending a guy in, and we got this request by headquarters to go to meet with this guy and inform him of the dangers of doing what he was going to do. And I realized what was happening immediately. They were just trying to pass responsibility off as being this sort of a collective thing, to being me and the station I was in had full ownership of what happened. So if this thing went pear-shaped and this guy got in trouble, they were going to say, well, we told them, that how risky this was, and they went ahead and did it. And I was outraged. I really felt that it was a slap in the face. So I told our officers that we're not going to do this. So we're going to make the situation markedly worse if we go out and warn this guy about his travels, because he already understood what was going on. We had been very clear with him about the risks involved in doing what he was going to do, and so we did not warn him. He came back, all was good. But I got from the deputy at the time a very lengthy and complimentary email and saying how this is the first time in his career that anyone had ever taken a sort of a morally courageous position on something like that, and did it so publicly and with the sort of risking basically my career if this thing went wrong. And so anyway, I say that not to sort of pat myself on the back, but just to say that you need to be a master of these situations and be confident in making decisions and not not duck from responsibility, not hide from the expectations of the moment.
I feel like preparation plays a role too, because I feel like with your role, you definitely were prepared for any situation.
Yeah, you have to be but also I think you also have to be self-aware enough to know when you don't know enough and you're not there, and to let others in your team know that. And so that sense of I don't know, vulnerability might be the right word. That sort of showing the vulnerability in those situations is important for building trust as a team, but it also helps others understand where they might need to fill in if something's going wrong. And I apologize. I'm just going to tell stories here if it's okay with you guys.
Yeah, feel free.
So there was a very I was going to South Asia, and it was literally my first day in the country. So I fly in Washington, London to place in South Asia. I don't know why I can't say the name of it, but I'm not supposed to. Anyway, so a capital city in South Asia. I get to the airport. The embassy picks me up, takes me to my temporary residence. I change, go to the office, and so I learn that day that I'm taking a helicopter flight with a congressional delegation going to the Pakistan-Afghanistan border, and we're going to visit some of the CIA bases in the region. So I said, fine. And so as we're preparing for this, we had a security group, and I pulled aside the head of the security group, and I said to him, just so you're aware, I said, I've been in this country about 4 hours now. I don't know where we're going. I don't know who's actually traveling with us. I don't know who the pilot of this helicopter is. I don't know what normal looks like versus something that's unusual, something that might cause concern for you. So I said, I'm relying on you to tell me these things, because if you're looking over at me thinking that I'm going to make a decision on something that's risky, I'm not going to recognize it. So you need to, feel comfortable with telling me when things don't look right, and we can make a decision about what to do. And again, it was not. I just wanted him to let him know that, man, I literally knew nothing about what we were doing, and I didn't want him to think that that I was going to interject if I saw something that was not right, because as I said, I wouldn't have known. So, but anyway, I say that because I think in those times you do need to identify when you don't have the visibility, skills, whatever, to make something as a team.
Sweet.
So you've had the opportunity to experience, these leadership moments in the CIA, but also in the business world. Do you think that the same skills carry over from both aspects, like the vulnerability that you were talking about, or even like the high pressure situations where you might need to let others know that, like, you might not have all the pieces together, but kind of goes along with the same vulnerability that you're talking about. But do you think?
No, absolutely. I think that there's I've read of the people you talk to will certainly have read more leadership books than I have, but I do recall I think it was Patrick Lencioni had written a book, the five five dysfunctions of a team, and talking about the sort of absence of trust and other things. Was like the absence of trust, fear of conflict, a number of other these things, and so that is fundamentally a trust building thing, to have the trust of other people to show where you're potentially lacking on something, and I think leaders oftentimes want to portray themselves as knowing everything, but the more senior you get, you want to you're almost expected to know things and to have experienced things, and sometimes it's just not true. You just don't have. It's impossible to be true. You don't, in anyone's career, you're not going to experience everything and know everything, and so there are going to be gaps in your knowledge and experience base, and it's okay. It's actually better that when you say, like, look, yeah, shit, I don't know that, and help me out, and I think the people around you will respect that.
Yeah, kind of a part two to that question, actually. Using your past experiences to almost like look to the future, do you see leadership skills like evolving in the future in any way, or do you think that kind of the foundations that we've set will remain?
So that's actually a really good question, and I think I'm going to give sort of two parts of this. Mm-hmm. I think it has to change for two reasons. The one is that I think generationally, people, for whatever dynamics are in place, the generations change, and so what their priorities are, where they're sort of they're thinking about particular issues. Just think of on a really basic example, women in the workplace. So 100 years ago, that was been a different type of conversation entirely to where we are today, fortunately. But there are going to be those things that are going to change socially and culturally that will require you applying these principles in perhaps a different way, or against a different set of problems. But then secondly, I would leave you guys with this thought, and I think it's sort of beyond this conversation. But if we ever get a chance to meet down in Georgia, maybe talk through a little bit more. But I think there's a leadership crisis in this country. I'm not saying that as like a political statement given the current White House. I think it's a crisis with our elites about the damage that our institutions have suffered over the last 20 years for a variety of reasons. And I think that although we talk a lot about leadership, we're not doing a very good job at leading. And our elites, and I don't say that like meaning people who graduate from Brown University or from Harvard, but people in positions of power, influence, and authority who can direct and identify and direct change in our society. I think they're failing us in many respects, and maybe I shouldn't say they. Maybe we are failing ourselves. We are not addressing the problems that we need to address in a way that gives me any confidence that we're going to get there in the time we need. And I'll just give you an example of this. Again, I don't mean to be political just because it's in the news. So if you look at, choose an example here, immigration. So we have not, despite all the talk about immigration, we have not had an immigration bill that's gone before Congress for a vote in at least 10 years. I think 2013 was the last comprehensive effort at comprehensive immigration reform. So both parties claim that they want to solve this issue. So the political leadership in this country, but they never do. And you have to ask yourself, well, why is that? Like, why is it so hard to get a compromise? And each side will blame the other for, one side wants open borders or the other side is duplicitous or whatever. I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying that this is the issue. But our inability to find a solution, I think, undermines the credibility of our leaders and our institutions. And so the people who are voting for or supporting a former president, again, I'm not trying to be political, I'm just saying that they should be frustrated. They should be angry. I mean, we're not doing the things we need to do and our leaders are failing us, and we're failing ourselves in how we do this. So I think, long-winded answer, those are going to be some big challenges that you people are going to have to deal with in the future. So, not to mention the debt.
Okay,
Yes,
next question we got is like kind of switching speeds a little bit. It's more on communication, and it is basically just effective communication is crucial in intelligence, like your field.
Yep.
And what strategies did you do to ensure clear communication, and how can these be translated into the business world if they would be?
Yeah, I think they're like open and transparent communications is probably a fundamental requirement for success of teams. And that is true whether you're working in the intelligence field or in business. I mean, it's from making sure that people understand the vision, understand what goals and objectives you have, that you are clear about communicating challenges going forward. And if you're hiding those things from somebody, like the engineering department is not telling the sales department that they're woefully behind in designing what the salespeople are trying to sell, that's a bad position to be in. And so there are a number of examples out there, and I'll pick on the recent mishaps, tragic mishaps with the Boeing 737. There seem to be a lot of communications issues there, where the whatever concerns that some of the engineering folks had were not being passed along, and if so, that it wasn't being communicated to others, like how serious those challenges were. So I think that clarity of communication is important. But to do that, go back to the trust issue. You have to have. Sometimes I think people don't share because they don't trust others to act responsibly with the information. And then that's a sort of a deeper issue with dysfunctions of teams. But it has to be purposeful. Sometimes that in that purposeful way of communicating needs to be formalized, whether it's regular meetings. And we all tend to dismiss the importance of meetings. I think Elon Musk apparently likes to have his standing up, which is fine, but to be able to get together with people working common problems, looking for a common outcome. I think there's no better way to get than to do it face to face and hash out those things as you can. So
I agree. That's great. Yeah. Great answer.
I wonder if I'm just thinking out loud here, I wonder if COVID kind of impacted that with the ability for us not to be able to meet face to face and to see people's interactions and to build those relationships and trust. Do you think that in any way has impacted the business sector, or even the agency that you?
So I think there's been probably good and bad outcomes from COVID. And I'm just talking about the COVID in a business sense, not sort of the medical things or vaccines and all that. But it has shown us that there are other ways of being able to communicate, having meetings like this one here. I'm not down in Georgia, and you guys aren't up here in Arlington, right? So we're able to do this online. So taking advantage of the new technologies out there, I think is a win for everybody. Mm-hmm. But it's not a replacement for being in the same office. And there's just things that you're not going to be able to talk about or share. You won't be able to develop the kinds of relationships over a period of time. And my son works remotely, and he likes it and does a good job with that. But what my wife and I talk about is that you're things that you're not getting when you're not going into the office are the learning the common culture of a place. We talk of leadership and culture. You may not be getting that just from the occasional Zoom calls, right? You're not developing a network of contacts, just as far as meeting people at the office, identifying common interests, and then building that the types of relationships that can be burdened by problems. You're just a face on a screen and a voice occasionally. And if you have that relationship with somebody, maybe going out to beers before, after work, or going to a ball game, or having coffee in the morning, whatever, that fundamentally that relationship is different and of higher quality than that you're just going to have online. So as I said, again, the technology, taking advantage of that is probably a good outcome, but I think we're losing some of the other things that make businesses and teams successful.
All right, this next question, I'm really interested to hear. I know you learned a lot of things from being in the CIA, of course. Which skills and experiences have been most beneficial in the business world for you?
Yeah, it's funny. So somebody told me this long before I retired, and I think it's true, is that a lot of the soft skills that we learn in the agency, as far as working with people, working in teams, working against a common problem, being able to analyze the problem, talk about potential solutions, and work on those. I think that those are all transferable, and so there are a lot of the things that you do on the outside that is very similar to what we do on the inside. We had one of the things that I'm fortunate enough to do is I'm on this angel investing group, New Dominion Angels, and so it's not a job; it's just a group of people who are trying to help out small companies and as a group invest in them, and the due diligence that goes into reviewing those companies is very much the same that we would use in reviewing an operation. Looking at the leadership team and looking at the risk involved, looking at the timeline for doing this, all those factors that you would want to investigate and inquire into in an operation are also true in a business scenario. So those, as I said, those sort of soft things are equally transferable or usable in that context. I don't know if there's a single group of those things that I found like most valuable, but I found that a great number of the things that I learned about and did in the agency are useful in the business world. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. I mean, I could bore you guys with all the stuff I don't know. But anyway, trust me, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. And I learn every day more about what I don't know. So I feel like the list is growing longer.
Me as well.
Yeah.
Kind of a little last question that me and Eli are both wondering about this earlier. We kind of had to ask. It says on your LinkedIn that you won this meritorious unit citation 3 times. Can you speak into that at all? I don't know, Eli.
Yeah, no. So that thank you for asking that. So there are different types of awards you get in a career at the agency. The Exceptional Performance Award being one. Those are directed at an individual, like somebody who's done on his or her own a uniquely good job at something, and then he or she is rewarded with this award. Usually comes with some small financial payment as well, but the recognition of having done that, and it goes in your file, and it helps on promotions and assignments on. The meritorious unit citation is usually for what people have achieved as a group, and the one I'm proud of all 3, but the one I think I'm probably most proud of is when we were working the Counter-Proliferation Center. We had a series of successes against the HUCON network that fundamentally changed U.S. policy, and then led to Libya giving up its WMD program, to the identification of other proliferation nodes throughout the world. So that was I played a small part in that, but I got as part of the team that was involved in that. But worked with an exceptionally talented and determined group of people who basically unraveled this rather large, complex proliferation network that spread from Pakistan through Turkey, Germany, South Africa, Libya, Syria, and other places. And it was a years-long effort that was, as I said, recognized with this award at the end.
Sweet. Well, we're about through with time, and I would just like to thank you and thank our listeners. And special thanks to you for giving us your time, Mr. Greg Lane. Your resume speaks for itself, and we're just very glad we got to talk to you.
As I said, I really appreciate you guys reaching out to me. I hope that my answers, contributions here have in some small way helped you guys with the work you're doing. But always have time for Professor Risvold and his students. So thanks again for reaching out.
Yeah, we were very excited to see that we got you on our podcast. So I think I speak for Eli and Jake as well when we say we look forward to, hopefully maybe getting to meet you one day in person, but this was awesome. So thank you very much.
No, definitely. I'll come down and visit you guys at some point. So thank you.
That'd be great.
Sweet. Thank you.
So much.
Cheers.
Honor.